Not one country had a perfect response to the health crisis, and that's understandable since no one knew it was coming, or maybe not many people knew that it was coming and how to face it at least. Which is why the expose regarding the WhatsApp messages over in the UK is getting a lot of attention, as it seems like some of the leaders responded to the healthcare crisis based on their personal politics. That can't be a good look. There's a whole archive of these text messages, and boy, do we really have some awful ones that you guys need to hear about. Now, just to give you guys an idea, one message says that officials would have to get heavy with the police, referring to people not being stopped from breaking the rules during lockdowns. Another one even asks, any idea how many people we locked up in hotels yesterday? Which is a question aimed at lockdowns and people being forced to quarantine. Wow. Doesn't it sound like they're treating absolutely innocent people like criminals? Now, I'm not going to say that this same scenario happened here, but it does feel as if draconian methods were applied to people all over the world during the pandemic. And now it's coming out that these people were in way over their heads. There was also the idea of getting rid of our pets during the health crisis. And no, not in a shelter permanently. And if that wasn't enough, communications were caught that showed that politicians and those that are in power, they were prioritized for C-19 tests at a time when not much of these tests were available. This is just unbelievable, you guys. Do you think that all of these things were just natural occurrences during the health crisis? And were you and me, the normal, everyday people, treated differently compared to the government officials? Comment a quick yes or no on that one. Now, before I continue, you guys, please take a second and smash the like button for the video. It definitely helps out a ton with the YouTube algorithm. And if you're in need of your daily dose of the truth, when it comes to the US economy, Washington, D.C., global happenings, Social Security, the stock market, the housing market, and everything that affects our lives, our families, and our bank accounts, make sure to subscribe to the channel. And if you own a home, make sure that your home is protected. Get your free home warranty quote. There's a link in the description down below. It only takes a few seconds. All right, so the past few years of our lives, they have been a blur. I mean, who here remembers working from the office and then, just walking outside like a normal human being? No restrictions, no fear, just kind of going about our day, without a care in the world. And then all of a sudden it happened. The health crisis. Mandates were placed, people were locked up in their homes, and children are suddenly forced to study virtually, something that none of us were prepared to face since not many of us were pretty much alive during the last pandemic before C-19. But here's the thing. The restrictions were placed with our best interests at heart. At least that's what we were told. But some revelations are now coming out that while officials applied rules to us, it didn't necessarily mean that they knew what they were doing.
There was a moment when we were very unclear about whether domestic pets or not could transmit the disease. In fact, there was an idea at one moment that we may have to ask the public to exterminate all the cats in Britain. Can you imagine what would have happened if we had wanted to do that? And yet there was, for a moment, a little bit of evidence about that. So that had to be investigated and closed down.
So there was one cat that supposedly caught the C-19 virus, and they wanted to take all of the cats out. And that was Lord Bethel, by the way, the former health minister for the UK government. What sticks out to me is his choice of words, saying that what would have happened if they wanted to cull all of the cats. Can you imagine just banging on people's doors, asking you if you have cats, and if they do, they pull them from you and just basically lay everyone's cats to rest? That's scary. I don't think many people would be taking that laying down, practically saying that their word would be law, even though studies would have proven them otherwise. Bethel is back on the news, and due to his former boss, Matt Hancock, the former health secretary, having more than 100,000 WhatsApp messages leaked to a news outlet. The journalist who provided the text message to the Daily Telegraph was Isabel Oakeshott, the person Matt Hancock collaborated with to write a book about the health crisis. The messages were provided to Oakeshott to help write the book. Now you may be wondering, wouldn't Hancock at least have Oakeshott sign an NDA? I'll just go ahead and let her answer that.
Did you sign an NDA which pledged not to use these messages?
Yes.
So you've deliberately broken that?
I have, in the public interest.
And there could be legal consequences for you.
I think the public interest is overwhelming. Whenever you break a big story which is in the national interest, and I've done a few of them, it can be a rocky road, it can be a bumpy ride. Look, I know that I'm going to get a few knocks over this. I'm prepared to do this because I think that the national interest is so utterly compelling.
Hancock has said that he's disappointed in Oakeshott and that this was a massive betrayal and breach of trust. But speaking of trust, how about we just kind of read some of these messages, huh? When it came to enforcing lockdown rules back in August of 2020, Hancock said that they needed to get heavy with the police, insisting that they put forth more strict efforts to be able to control the movement of people. In another thread of messages between Hancock and Simon Case, the cabinet secretary and head of the civil service in the UK, they seem to mock travelers who were forced to isolate upon returning to their country. In a message back in February of 2021, Case told Hancock, quote, "I just want to see some of the faces of the people coming out of first class and into Premier Inn shoebox," end quote. Wow. After a week, Case then told Hancock, quote, "Any idea how many people we locked up in hotels yesterday?" End quote. Although, if you guys remember Boris Johnson, their own prime minister at the time, he was having parties at his home. Anybody remember Partygate? Now, it really just shows how different those in power are compared to average citizens. And just to really add fuel to the fire, watch this.
The leaked WhatsApp messages from the then Health Secretary, the Right Honourable Member for West Suffolk, showed that despite a shortage in COVID tests in September 2020, one of the Minister's advisors sent a test to the Right Honourable Member for North East Somerset's home by courier. Wow. This is yet more evidence that it's one rule for Conservative ministers and another for everyone else.
In yet another case of politics and personal sentiment taking over, Hancock in text messages also shot down keeping schools open during the health crisis. According to the report from the Telegraph, quote, "The lockdown files show that Hancock's push to shut schools was just one of a number of repeated instances where the interests of children were apparently disregarded in favor of restrictions. Many of the measures went against the Council of Scientific Advisors. The decision made around the children's education was among the most controversial of the pandemic. Studies have shown that keeping children away from the classrooms led to a rise in mental health problems and a decline in development. Some people lost more than 100 days of schooling because of school closures alone," end quote. Not to mention how many parents had to lose their jobs because someone had to stay home to take care of the kids. So we had our Twitter files. Now the UK has their lockdown files. Something that I also hope to see here because so many lives were affected by the restrictions placed on us. But do you guys think that something similar happened over here? Or if leaks are ever shown here, do you think that they will be worse than this? This is a developing story, but it is something that everybody needs to hear, especially since it feels like, the last few years were pretty much just stripped away from us. That and our freedom to make our own choices. But let me know in the comments down below. Do you think that the government leaders should be allowed to make all of our decisions for us in the case of pandemics like the one that we just experienced? Or would it be based more on common sense and actual data? You guys be the judge, but the truth is definitely all coming out. Now, if you ask me, besides the health and the mental well-being, our wallets were also hit pretty hard during this health crisis. Heck, it's still getting hit to this day as inflation is still doing a number on our expenses. Credit card bills are still soaring and households across the country, they're feeling the pain. Although it doesn't have to be this way for everyone, especially if you're here and you're part of this community. Now, what if I told you that there was a way back toward financial freedom? I mean, just think about budgeting your cash flow right now. And if you feel as if it's not enough, perhaps we can talk about wise investments in the stock market, real estate, also building multiple streams of income by leveraging small businesses and side hustles. Now, if you're interested in this, feel free to join us over in the Patreon community. Links in the description down below, as well as the best way to invest in gold. That link is in the description down below. Now, before I go, please don't forget to drop a thumbs up for the video. Also subscribe for your daily dose of the truth. I do appreciate you guys watching. Please be kind to one another, and I'll see you in the next video.